titled Climbing the Value Chain, Malaysia's Semiconductor Future. We are privileged to be joined by an outstanding panel of speakers. Mr. Subagaran, Vice President Design Engineer and General Manager, Volume Product Engineer from Intel Malaysia. Followed by Ms. Adelene, Economic Advisor, British High Commission in Kuala Lumpur. And thirdly, Insinyur Dr. Ngoo Seong Boon, representative of Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association. Correct? And our moderator, Mr. Tan Kai Boon, Chevening Scholar of 2023-2023, Warwick Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our forum panelist one to the stage.
Do they have the mic or I have to pass? My test. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Forum 1, the Climbing the Value Chain, Malaysia's Semiconductor Future. So, Malaysia has been a key player in the semiconductor sector, with Penang often called as the nation's Silicon Valley. So, in 2024 itself, Malaysia's semiconductor exports were valued around 388 billion, making us one of the world's top 10 chip exporters. Despite the historical focus on the back end of the industry, such as assembly and testing, Malaysia is making great strides in efforts to become a major upstream player in the global semiconductor industry like IC design, wafer fabrication, advanced packaging, and smart manufacturing, to capitalize on the surge in demand driven by the AI. Also, the National Semiconductor Strategy, launched in May 2024, lays out a 10-year roadmap for achieving this transformation. Yet, headwinds are strong along this path. Internal constraints and technology depository, funding problems, and supply chain gaps need to be overcome in order for Malaysia to compete with top regional players such as Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. So this forum is actually an opportunity to unpack these issues with leaders who sit at the heart of the semiconductor landscape. We will explore these three core topics, the first one being Malaysia's current position in the global semiconductor ecosystem. And the second is the challenge of transitioning from downstream to upstream activities. And the third is what it takes to build a future-ready advanced industry ecosystem, from supply chain and innovation to incentive and talent. With that, let me introduce our distinguished panelists. Our first panelist is Mr. Subagaran Letchumanan, Vice President of Design Engineering and General Manager of Volume Product Engineering at Intel Malaysia. He is a global tech leader with deep expertise across the full semiconductor product lifecycle, from pre-silicon design through post-silicon testing. He leads international teams across 4 countries and drives innovation in manufacturing, design, and advanced test solutions. Our second panelist is Dr. Ngoo Seong Boon, representing of the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association, MSIA. MSIA works to elevate Malaysia's semiconductor ecosystem, strengthen global competitiveness, and advocate for the industry. It supports companies and individuals across the semiconductor value chain, fostering ecosystem-wide and community-level initiatives. He brings both ecosystem-wide and community-level perspective on Malaysia's semiconductor development. And for our third panelist, Ms. Adelene, Economic Advisor at the British High Commission, KL. She has more than 15 years of experience across public services and the corporate sector, covering policy research, political economy, economic security, microfinance, and Islamic finance. Her work includes shaping strategies for global competitiveness and international collaboration in advanced industry. And my name is Tan Kai Wen, so I'm a Chevening Scholar of 22-23 at the Warwick Business School, and I'll be moderating today's session. So we will start with a series of questions to our panelists. This will be followed by an open Q&A session with the audience. So if you have any questions, you can keep it up until the later, so we don't interrupt with the rest of the session. And each question that will then covers a different aspect of Malaysia's semiconductor journey. Okay, so our first question, so to Mr. Subagaran. So Malaysia has been a mature and prominent hub for semiconductor test and assembly. What do you see as Malaysia's competitive strength that has sustained us over the past 40 years?
Sure. First of all, good morning, moderator, fellow Balinese. And thank you, all of you, for showing up on a Saturday morning, right? Looks like you've done the first step towards your future, right? Good. Now, let me answer that question. So before I go to the question, I think we owe a great deal of gratitude to our previous leaders. 4 or 5 decades ago, they took the pragmatic approach of going overseas, bringing in foreign investment to this tiny state of Ireland and Penang, and opening up a free trade zone and everything. And that was the foundational seed to what you see in Penang today over the 4 or 5 decades. All right, it was a huge, new, great initiative, and you can see the fruits of it now. Now, over the 4 decades, we've had a lot of threats from emerging markets and everything. I would say that the reason we are thriving, and not all the main reason, I might not be able to cover all, but some of the key is that we have a good reputation, right? We have a good reputation as somebody who could be relied upon to deliver. Not just deliver with quality, right? I think it's in our DNA. We do take our commits personal, right? You commit something, you deliver, right? That's one. The other thing is, and key advantage is over the 4, 5 decades in Malaysia and in Penang, we have a mature, highly integrated ecosystem. You know, assembly, test, vendors, supply chain, your logistics and everything. All of them come together, and I think we've had opportunity to fine-tune it over the years. The third one is, despite what people keep saying, every generation complains, oh, this generation is not as good as the previous generation. But working in the industry where we hire people every year, that is not true. The country produces great talents. 95% of our graduates are local. 95% of our employees are all locals. And most of them are from the local university as well. So our talent pool is great. So that's one of the reasons that I think we continue to thrive.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, Mr. Subagaran. So, while we have maintained a quite strong position in the past, right? So, new competitors are emerging globally. So, we have seen like Vietnam and India become growing hubs for semiconductor manufacturing over the past few years. So, the question now is, how can Malaysia maintain its competitive edge as a global semiconductor hub in the face of all these emerging giants? So perhaps, Mr. Subagaran, looking from the test and assembly ecosystem, like what areas should Malaysia focus on to improving to stay ahead of our emerging competitors?
We will give enough time for Q&A at the end.
Sure.
Okay, good. So I think that's why it's important. If not, it's just like sitting in a class lecture and I just talk. Okay. So anyway, to answer that question, a few things that I think we have to protect ourselves against all these emerging threats. First of all, we cannot continue to be seen as a cost competitive, only cost competitive kind of a differentiation that we bring. Because if cost was the only factor, we would have lost long ago. Some of our neighboring countries, the emerging markets, they can offer things much, much cheaper than us, and we would have lost long ago. What has allowed us to survive, and I think we really have to double down on it, is the fact that we are also capabilities competitive, right? We have lots of automation. We are going up in the value chain and introducing AI in manufacturing. Those kind of key differentiation, I think it matters, so that we are seen as a capable manufacturing provider, not just a cost, right? If it's purely cost, then you'll start asking questions, how come Singapore's FDI is way higher than Malaysia's FDI, right? So it's not always cost, so we have to look at that. The second one, it's a bit more sensitive, IP and chip security. For a long time, Malaysia, we were providing manufacturing for American or other European companies, okay? Lately, you would have seen a lot of other Asian companies coming in, even China-based. Unfortunately, these countries and companies don't have the same trade policies. There are restrictions on what you can share, what chips can be exported here and there. With all these mushrooming new companies and industries, especially in Penang, the engineer's mobility is very high. You'll have an engineer who works in an American company today, he might work in a China-based company tomorrow. We have to be very, very strict with the guardrails of IP leakage. You cannot have somebody with some knowledge of some US patents or something going to another company and sharing that. That needs to be protected. The other one is the chips, right? You manufacture chips. You don't want to get entangled in the chip transshipments, right? Once your trust is eroded, it's a bit difficult. So you have to establish yourself as we have strict guidelines where IP leakage does not happen and chip does not happen. And third one is ESG, sustainability, right? I know the current political climate, there's some posturing that makes it look like sustainability doesn't matter, right? But it matters. Sustainability is just not a PR campaign. It is a survival strategy. So we need to use sustainability as a as a key differentiator. Like Intel, for example, 100% is green power. 100% of our wastewater is recycled, right? So we need to expand on that to the other companies as well.
Thank you, Mr. Suba. So maybe let's hear from a different perspective. So Dr. Ngoo, so from a supply chain perspective, right, what steps should Malaysia take to ensure that our supply chain remain robust and globally competitive?
Thank you. So maybe also quick introduction for myself. I used to work for Intel as well for 28 years. This is my colleague. And right now, I actually become a consultant for many associations, including MSIA and some of the startup and SME. Okay. So
at one point, everybody used to work for Intel.
There's a lot of company come here. So I think the key here is like from supply chain angle perspective to maintain our competitiveness. I would say that three things is very important. Some of them are already covered by Suba. And the first one is resilience. So Malaysia have been here, have many companies like Seven Samurai, if I'm not mistaken, in Penang, that started up more than 50 years ago. So that really important because that will shape out all our global supply chain over here. Even during the pandemic and even lately the geopolitical issue, right? So Malaysia is still kind of deliver promising, strongest competitive advantage over here. The second one will be ecosystem, just now what Suba just mentioned, right? So when we talk about ecosystem, right, Vietnam and India continue to growing very rapidly. But they are building what Malaysia used to be many years ago. So we have to leverage that advantage. When I say about supply chain and ecosystem or deep layer or ecosystem, it could start with MNC, multinational company like Intel, now very hot one, you all should know, AMD, Broadcom, Keysight, and many others. But we still have a lot of SMEs that what YB just mentioned, right? We have few thousand, 7,000 SME across Malaysia. And also have a lot of OSAT. How many of you know what is OSAT? Outsourced assembly and test, many years ago. Company like Jabir, Plexus, Flex, heard about that before? So they are contract manufacturing that really shape out all these supply chains together as a company. And even lately, very hot one, which is IC, local design startup company. Heard about that? Like, Skychip, Opstar, many? Heard before? Anyone of you heard that before? Oh, by the way, before, any of you already start working or still studying? Oh, still studying? Oh, then my kids is actually even eldest one, older than you all. Just graduate from Lincoln University from UK. Just came back. I say come back and help to build the talent here. So the last one, because supply chain intelligent. When I say supply chain, just now I mentioned about contract manufacturing, right? So in manufacturing production floor, we move from industrial 3.0, 4.0, even 5.0 to enhance all this predictive maintenance to be focused a lot more on quality versus the quantity, right, perspective. So all these are very important. Company are even Jabir, and they already advanced into all the supply chain intelligence. You can see that in our industrial zone, right? A lot of company like DHL building a lot of factory, right? So very advanced in terms of supply chain manufacture, management perspective. So like what Subadu say, Malaysia position is not based on the cost itself, and it should really based on the trust, ecosystem maturity, and also the supply chain resiliency over here. I just made one of my colleagues from Intel yesterday to launch his new book. Just imagine, he is a holder of the Malaysia of record, and he produced. I asked him, how many patents that you created? You know what is patent, right? How many want to guess? Patent. Patent means you register. You are the one who own that IP. How many? Anyone want to guess? In your imagination, how many IP you can create? Patent, no? He really received a patent already. 50? Anyone? 100? 200? 240. I say, wow, man. He's from Intel also, by the way. He has 240 patents. What does it mean? He can actually produce a lot of innovations that really driving this industry. I'm sure that you all are the very good talent here. And even you are in Penang, you can produce a lot of good talent. And important to emphasize here, quality is really important.
Yeah, just very curious about the 240 patents, right? So it must stay in Intel, right? Or how it works actually? Maybe you can explain it to the fellows. Yeah.
And that's how IP protections work. That means Intel owns that IP going forward, right? So, and of course, it's the information on the patent and everything is up in public domain. But once you have already published it, it means that we have a right to that idea or IP. Right?
Okay, got it. All right, maybe let's hear about from the government perspective. So, Ms. Adelene, so what government policies or initiatives do you see as the most important to help Malaysia retain its global competitiveness?
Hi, so I think based on my background, you will realize that I'm the only one who's not from the technical background, right? So I think you all know semiconductor more than me. So yeah, probably I'll frame it this way, not exactly what policy would help improve our competitive edge, but what should our policy be doing to make sure that we are staying ahead of the game. I think there are three things to look into, and it will also help when you start working on your hackathon later on. First is focus, second is develop new, and third is coordinate. First, I think we need to focus on what we are really good at. On the short term, if we really want to stay ahead, we have to start looking and focusing on what we are good at. I think today, people are talking about choke points, meaning who is monopolizing and could control the entire supply chain and stop the whole world. So you heard of NVIDIA, ASML, TSMC being the choke points. Could we have a choke point in Malaysia? That's the question. Are we really good in certain materials, equipments, precision tools? Is there something that we can do to make sure that we are the choke point, or at least the global top 3 companies, so that we can then stay ahead of the game? It's not necessarily that you must have like the tiniest chip, 1 nano, 2 nano, no matter, I don't know what that means. It doesn't come up in my brain, but that's what people are talking about. Is that something for us to chase if that's not where we are? Or we do what we are really good at, improve it and make sure we are the best in the world. That's first focus. Second is develop new. Of course, as much on a longer term, we still need to develop new stuff, right? That's where startups, that's where young people like you would come up with the ideas. I think in the budget 2026, the government has announced Semicon Start, right? That's a specific startup program for semiconductor. How do I pick this up? Because the UK Chip Start program, it's actually advising the government in terms of this semicon startup. So this is something that you want to think about, what the future wants, what in the future people talk about. So AI is something that we all know, but next in the list, is it in quantum? Because in UK, everyone is talking about quantum. Is this something for us to consider? Is this something that you want to explore, research on, and then come up with your own startup? Because we have to be there. Right? We have to look 10 years in advance, 15 years in advance. where you want to be. You are still young. 15 years later, I'm retiring. I don't care whether it's quantum or it's AI, as long as I got money to survive every day, right? But it's different from you. You want to stay on the edge, and you don't want other people to be taking your job or taking over your businesses. So that's something for you to think ahead. So the third one is coordination. Regardless of what you do, you still need to coordinate, right, with the government's policy, with the trend in the global ecosystem. You can't be doing something out of nowhere and then no commercial partners want to partner with you. Nobody wants to buy your thing. Nobody wants to support your things. Then you're back to square one, zero, right? So you need to coordinate, need to make sure that it's aligned with the policies, whether it's your company, if you're working with people, or whether if you're in the management, it fits into the government's policy, and whether it's with the entire global demand and ecosystem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think this is quite a heavy topic, right? So maybe let's open up to the floor for maybe 1 to 2 questions. If anyone's right here have any questions to ask our panelists right now. Okay, if not, then let's move on. So I think right now we can move on to the Malaysia's progress in the upstream semiconductor segments. So perhaps Dr. Khoo can answer this. So how do you perceive Malaysia's current progress towards the high-value upstream semiconductor players, especially in this era of the AI chip demand? Like, what sort of challenges are we facing in approaching key competitors like Taiwan, Japan, and Korea?
You're naming all these advanced countries. They are much ahead of us compared to 50 years ago. I think just now I did mention, right? So how many of you know what is upstream or downstream means? What is downstream? No, the ayah, the turun bawah, about the same lah. So Malaysia used to be kind of considered a very popular downstream area, which is do a lot of assembly and test. So right now we are focused a lot more on the upstream side. Means that you are going up to the value chain of the silicon design. So you have the silicon design, fab, and also advanced packaging, and even fully automation's perspective. So that is where that you can complete the whole value chain from the sand to the actual chip that coming out, right? So I just mentioned that ecosystem is very important. I think one of the key here lately, I think in the past 1-2 years, the NSS, which is stand for National Semiconductor Strategy, they have really prioritized that. They're helping to pump in a lot of money and to help on the IC design, advanced packaging, automations, and upstream material, about close to 25 billion. It's a lot of money in our lately the Malaysia plan. So NSS create a very clear direction where we want to bring the Malaysia into the next stage on the upstream side. And this is very good. Secondly, I think with all the signals from all the even MSC like Intel, AMD, and many others have been really kind of bringing a lot of investment to help out this upstream design over here in Malaysia is really very positive signal. Even some local champion like Vitrox. Anyone of you heard about Vitrox? Vitrox and even Skychip that just lately they announced that, hey, they have been really able to advance a lot in this upstream design. And not to forget about all the emerging startup I just mentioned, like, you know, the Opstar, Infinix, and 10A6. They are all the opportunity that you can see that they're actually doing a lot of upstream. Of course, there's a lot of challenges. Still that ahead of how we can actually overcome and really important. I think first one that we talk about, the technology, you know, the IP ownership gaps that we have today. Because all these advanced countries, they already have the IP design much ahead of us in this area. And, you know, to design a chip, it's not cheap, okay? So the funding skills really have to be continuously, they'll be able to be sustainable for long term. How many of you that can guess that how long it takes to design a chip? From design, tape out, and then come out the chip packaging, everything. Anyone? Make a guess? A year, 3 years? Okay, it's kind of in between. If you are good, it could be 12 to 18 months. It's longer than, you know, we need to have produce our human, right? So 9 months only. This is 12 months to 18 months, some even 24 months. Means that whatever you think of and start now, You come out to the market, it's already 2 years later. You can't do something that when you meet a customer and say, hey, they will tell you, can you come 2 years ago? Not now. In other words, you're very late. So these are one of the challenges. How can we sustain all this long cycle and long design cycle and the cost perspective? Of course, last but not least is we need to have a structure. This one I should tell, I already feedback to the government and YB a lot of time. In other countries, like all this ecosystem, right? In Taiwan, Japan, and I have been meeting some of them because I have used to work there. Kind of similar to TSMC type of the IRTI kind of structure. Means that this country, they really have a EITI structure, like even Korea, like Samsung model. So they are kind of nurturing all this ecosystem and really able to share the IP with some of the company as well. So that is something that we are still not there yet. Even we do have NSS helping on all this. But in short, I believe that Malaysia is in the right direction. And to become a true kind of upstream player in the world map, we must increase our speed, skill, and single unified execution. So we all depends on the talent over here that really help us to carry there.
All right, thank you, Dr. Khoo. So since you also mentioned about the success of the few countries, then perhaps we should change our focus to maybe Miss Adelene. So what would you suggest the government focus on to accelerate Malaysia's semiconductor transformation?
Okay, if I keep talking about government and policy, will bore everyone here. I know young people just not into policy. I've asked, I've tested, I know. So I'll try to bring it down and make sure it relates to you, okay? So FDI, as we know, bringing MNCs like Intel, it's the current strategy, but it cannot be long. And that's why we have our national semiconductor strategy to make sure that we grow, homegrown, groom local players to make sure that they are global players itself, right? So maybe if you talk about design, what is applicable to you, or maybe when you are interacting in between your institutions, because mostly are young, so I better tone it down and not bringing to the management level, is focus on the, as I said again, is focus, develop new, and coordinate. Focus on what the end product is for, the end user. Now, we all know Malaysia government has signed a deal with right? So now you need to start to think how you can use this architecture, how your universities or institutions could work with the government to use the architecture to help you to either develop new or to improve existing designs that are in the market. So that's one, right? I hope I've brought it down to your level. If not, just let me know. In terms of advanced packaging, right? We are already in the packaging. We are already one step in ahead, right? I think it's about developing a mature ecosystem. What you could be talking about is talking about yourself. Try to develop new model of collaboration. Buying equipments, having the right tools, it's really very expensive, especially if you are just doing R&D. No one institution could afford end-to-end kind of machines and tools. What you could do is start collaborating with each other, start sharing equipment. One model we could think about is in UK, especially in Scotland. There is a center called National Advanced Semiconductor Packaging and Integration Center, NASPIC. It's under the National Manufacturing Institute of Scotland. What they do is, with government funding, right, and private sector support, they provide state-of-the-art equipment and allow partners, so you pay to use the services, right, to prepare and dice your wafers, do things like connect devices, conduct testing, seal your devices into the final package. So what this do when you start sharing, this is a new model of collaboration, okay? Every time we are so used to, I only want to own mine, I don't want to share, all right? But it's very costly, and because it's costly, I cannot move forward. So this is a new way of collaboration, a new model where they work together and then they reduce the packaging lead times from months to days. They also enable research and scale up. So if you are small, like I said earlier, take up the opportunity to look into startups. You don't have that capacity, and this kind of facilities is what you need, right? This is something that institutions can start talking among yourself, don't have to wait for the government, right? The next thing is on smart manufacturing you mentioned, right? I think supports in a way needs to be more targeted. There are a lot of grants coming from the financial background, right? With a financial background, there are a lot of grants, a lot of loans that the government give. They announce every year, every Malaysia plan, every budget. But I think when we speak to people on the ground, and maybe for yourself, the thing is, how do I do it? That's the problem. You give me money, you give me loans, but I don't know how to do it. So I think this is something, if you could fit it back, these are things, trainings that actually you need. The kind of accounting support, the legal support, the conversion support that you need, not just money. So again, I always tell young people, yes, policy is boring, but then what you feed back to the government is really important because that's what they think and that's how it shapes the policy that will affect you in the future. All right, thanks.
All right, yeah, thanks, Ms. Adelene. So, as you mentioned about ARM, right? So, just to share with the floor about the news that you might not be seeing this in your Instagram feed, so I'm showing it to you. So, the Malaysia's government has actually partnered with ARM Holdings on a 10-year, 250 million investment to license ARM's chip design, blueprint, and IP. So, perhaps, Mr. Suba, I'd like to hear your thought on this. So, do you see the intended effect of this partnership in fostering the homegrown AI chips?
Sure. Before I answer that question, I'm still stuck on the comment that Ms. Adeline made 2 questions ago on the choke point. It's a brilliant question. What's Malaysia's choke point? And I'm just sitting here thinking about it again. So that was really good question. It's something that we really have to think about. Now back to this ARM business, right? So those of you who are not familiar, if your Intel and AMD is x86, that's where your CPU is. Rest of the world, your handphone, what else? Your car, most of the car chips and everything. ARM is a huge ecosystem, right? So what the government did was a major enabler for the startups, because one of the biggest complaints that the startups had was that we don't have access, we can't afford it. So that roadblock has been removed. So it is a key enabler. We are already seeing positive signs. The universities are already adopting the design collaterals as part of their syllabus. Some of the new startups are already having access, which would not have been possible because of the prohibitive licensing costs. So all of those things are beginning to show some positive signs. But we have to temper our expectations a bit. Like, you can't expect in 24 months a Malaysian NVIDIA, right? So almost everywhere you go, you keep getting questions. When are you going to make? When is Malaysia going to make an AI chip? When are you going to AI chip? That's decades of investment, right? It's not going to happen overnight. So I think what we need to do is we need to build our foundational capabilities: RTL design, verification, layout, PV timing, and all that. So today is AI, tomorrow is something else, but the same knowledge can be applied and built upon. There are a lot of agencies that is already helping. The PSDC, Dr. Hari is here. He'll go next in the panel. They have got very good linkage with our EDA vendors on how to use the ARM ecosystem and all that. So we are beginning to see positive signs, but please don't ask this question on when are we making our AI chip and all that.
Okay.
It will come, not so soon, right?
Okay. Hopefully. Okay, as also Dr. Ngoo is also from the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association. Maybe you can add on some thoughts to this question.
Fully agree with what Suba just mentioned. So the ARM partnership is really a strategic, enabler and also the step. However, I think to see the full impact is still very early stage as of now. And however, I will see that some of very positive early effects, because ARM really helps with the IP access. We significantly kind of lower down all this barrier for all, especially the local design team. Especially just now I talked about Skychip, Opstar, and so on. Despite they may have used some RISC processor or the IP, but ARM is really have a much more wider developer. Here they have billions of developer based on the ARM architecture. And of course, it will help them a lot of custom SoC, system on chip, and also a lot of I/O, okay, AI accelerator, which is very hot right now nowadays, the accelerator itself, and some of the embedded design or your mobile design. So, and I know that some of the locals company, they also kind of create a lot of program. How many of you are not from EE1, electronic and engineering? Or all of you from other major?
There's a few there.
Not, who are not from EE1? Or all of you from EE? Oh, some not from EE, right? So, and computer science. I think some, that is some good news for you. Not for me, but we know that some of the program, like, Crash, they start up some of the program called My Chip Start. They can encourage that some the EE or computer science, you can participate, and after you graduate, they can give you the support to do the training, to get the certificate, and then a lot of companies will kind of pick you from there, even including Intel, AMD, and many others that allow you to do a reskill and transform. That kind of program would definitely help you for those who are not from the EE, that you still have the chance to really go into the IC design. So with this arm, right, definitely we will, just now I already mentioned, the design cycle will take many months to happen. So that result will come soon. May not be so soon, and also cost a lot. But so I forgot to mention, just make a guess how much to make a custom SoC.
Any guess?
Any guess? Go give. You don't have gift, that's why they don't answer. Scholarship plus 1 point. 10% more. Make a guess. How much to make a chip? A custom SoC, even you based on ARM. Yeah, I used to manage a team that run taking the ARM to build a custom SoC. Make a guess? Just how we say 2 years to make a chip, right? Huh? $1 million. How much? Any other guess? Huh? 50 million. 50. Malaysia ringgit or US dollar. It could cost you easily 20 to 30 millions US dollar to make a custom SoC based on the ARM. So if you don't have a market that able to address kind of volume, you're pumping so much money, how much to get the ROI for 20, 30 million investment? May I guess? A lot of companies don't even make a margin for more than 30 or 40%. So it means that you have to be more than 100 million, 200 million a market. After 2 years, your chip come out. So that's why I say we have to be really patient that government continue to support that in terms of capital, talent, and so on. So I see that this is really positive and definitely will help the cycle of all the startup kind of company to really access all the IP, and hopefully that we will see that will come out soon. Last but not least, I just want to advise the student over here. Want to give you a term that you can remember when you're writing, ABS. So A means that ability to really identify the problem. Don't solve the problem, yeah? Just now, this morning, I hear the YB say about that, right? You have to have an ability to really identify the problem. And B, continue to be curious about what you are doing. And last, S, is actually you are able to solve the problem. Aku buat sendiri ya. Don't go for ChatGPT to find the answer. Your lecturer will anger with you and you will not be able to contribute the new IP. Buat sendiri. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think this is quite important. So can you share the name of the program again for the rest?
The one that actually run by local one there's two. One is called My Chip, RTP 2.0, right, Dr. Ari? Another one, I think they collaborate with PSDC. The other one is My Chip Start. It's by Crest one. So just a Google search, you should be able to find it.
So the My Chip Start, right, for the second one? Yep.
My Chip and My Chip Start.
My Chip Start, okay. Yeah, so looking at the time now, I would like to thank you all the panelists for sharing their insights. So since we are also approaching the end of our session, right? So we have quite a few minutes for the questions from the audience. So for those who have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. About what we have, you can ask our panelists what we have discussed today. Is there any question from the floor? Oh yeah, that's one. Yeah, sure.
Okay, hi, I am Felix from UTP. So, as we all know, startup plays a big role in continuing to go to the path of R&D, right? But then startups are also very risky, and it takes some time to see the results. So, may I know, like, what are some advice that you all might be able to give us if you want to go into startup, and what are some policies that the government has provided, like specific policies that have provided for startup, for people to have incentive to go to startup instead of just working for existing companies. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right. So startups do come with the risk. Startups do come with inherent risk. That is true. But the returns are many fold, right? The safer bet is always you work for a big MNCs like Intel and everything. But lately we see a lot of startups mushrooming, and the key challenge that they have is also talent. All right. Companies like Intel, we have a long-term strategy where we can afford to hire people and train them for 2 years, 3 years. Startups can't afford that. They need not just talents, they need industry-ready talents, right? So, of course, we MNCs have been funding the startups with our headcount and everything, but that is not sustainable. So we need to figure out a way of how do we speed up the talents for the startup. And then I think the next panel, Dr. Hari, they would be showing some of the possible schemes that are already exist. Now, the bigger problem is, the second big problem is, of course, funding, right? Where do you get funding? You're always in the mode of looking for your next customers and all that. But there have been a few success stories so far, Skychip, Opstar, and all those things. They've been able to get funding from both the government. Government does have some schemes. If you look at the NIMP 30 NSS program, there are funds set aside to help our local startups, right? So that might ease some of the funding problem, but that does not mean that they have to stop looking for customers of their own, right? But the kind of funding that's available now is unheard of before, right? So I think it eases some of the burden that you have to get into the film. So you have some funding and incentivization from our government agencies. You also have talents, which of course you have to do some training to get them industry ready. The third thing is you don't have to pay now for your licensing fee for ARM, right? So that seems to be taken care of, right? There are opportunities, but it comes with the risk. So you need to be able to tolerate the risk to get into it.
Yeah, can I add on a little bit? Even though I'm not so qualified to talk about startup because I work for MNC for more than 28 years. But the past 3 months, I have been kind of become consultant some of this startup company. One of the area that you should look for is for MIDA. So beside the NSS, MIDA do have a very clear step for you to lay out all the steps that what you need to do the startup. And like what Subha said, all this EDA costs, IP costs, and all this, they do actually have a provide. And the other way that you can go to is a CREST, C-R-E-S-T. So these are the few organizations from government you could really help them. And we also kind of feedback to them. Just now talk about high cost and high cycle doesn't mean discourage you. One good news is like you look at the NSS direction, we kind of encourage make in Malaysia and by Malaysia, right? So in other words, that there's a lot others opportunity, the local customers looking for you. So example that, you know, even though you may have buy design from EV charger, EV cars from China, right? But it's going to be encourage some of the local design. Some of the semiconductor chip can supply to the local customer. You know how many components you have in EV car? Make a guess. Wow, I think we have a
make a guess again. Quiz again.
Just now, why we say the phone only have 200, right? EV car has 3,000 components. So it gives you an opportunity that the chip that you design You don't make a CPU compete with Intel and AMD, so that will take you many, many billions to do that. Not on NVIDIA GPU, but there's a lot of component on the board itself that you can really consider.
Miss Adelene?
Because I represent the UK government, I cannot really comment on Malaysian policy, but I can share what the UK has. All right. I have supported startup. I have started startup, and I'm currently supporting commercialization of a technology in a local university. My advice to you is, if you want to be a startup, that means you have to be an entrepreneur, no longer an engineer only. That means you need to think beyond the box. You need to think beyond your local market. You need to start looking elsewhere. If you cannot get the support in Malaysia, you need to start looking elsewhere. And I mentioned earlier, you need to start developing new ways of working, new ways of collaboration. You may have to collaborate with someone else elsewhere that has got better access to funding, for example, right? Say, for example, in the UK, I mentioned Semicon Start in the budget 2026 because we have a Cheap Start UK where they support startups for specifically semiconductor. Is that something that you could collaborate with someone else in the UK to get access into this program? This is something for you to think about. And in most universities in the UK, there is a commercialization department, which they helps academics, researchers who has got technology, who has got that new innovation to move from TRL 2, 3 to 5, 6, and then head on to commercialization. That's where they start providing advice like financing, legal, IP. How do you actually reach the market? What do you market? How do you present yourself to investors and all? So is this something that you might want to consider, probably applying for Chevening Scholarship, get a master's program, move on to PhD, and then get access to this kind of facilities? That's why I say, if you want to be a startup, you need to stop thinking as an employee. You need to start finding your way. You need to path your own way. Not what is available, what can I do? It's you find it, not what is given to you. Right? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
There's one last thing. If you're going to start a chip company, if your target is the Malaysian market, forget it. Right? The economies of scale is not there. So you have to do something at least for the ASEAN market, because I think ASEAN is population twice the size of EU, I think, right? So you don't try to do something just for the Malaysian market. There's no way you can recover the investment that you have put in. Right?
Yeah.
They do have MDEC, CDEC. They do have a startup company workshop and hackathon as well. So, and the clinic. So even in Penang, if you're from Penang, they actually host some of the even outsider. You can get the contact from me. We can broadcast to you if you are interested to be an entrepreneur and startup. They do have a clinic for you to help you to advise what to do.
We'll come and work for you.
Yeah, I think these are all very insightful. So, do we have any other question from the floor? Oh yeah, that's one.
Hello, my name is Arwa Salhi, and I'm actually from Algeria and studying here in Malaysia. Thank you so much for the opportunity at first. Actually, I just want to ask a general question, which is like, what kind of startups actually do you support? Like, can it be like just like chip startup, like as you said, or any other tech startups that are available on?
Based on, I'm not really qualified, but in the past 3 months I've been engaged. If you look at the current supported by the NSS, right, there are 4 few categories that they focus on. One is semiconductor, definitely. Besides that, there are a few categories like ESG, anything about the ESG. And then the third one, I think, is on AI. So when we say AI, it's not about the AI chip itself. They talk about the system, and also talk about some of the software like AI in fintech, AI in automations, and so on. But last but not least, this is bread and butter for Malaysia, right, which is automation. So a lot of automations, Industry 4.0 is also part of the startup in that 4 category of the startup support. Hope that answer.
Is there any other question from the floor? I'll give us some tough questions. Okay, I'm going back.
Good morning. This is Pong from USM. Maybe for Mr. Subagaran,
Yes, sir.
in your opening speech, you mentioned about chip security.
Yes.
Is that true? There is a backdoor that allowed people to steal the info from the chip?
Oh, okay. So I think when I said chip security, I was referring to when you manufacture a chip for somebody and it is meant to be exported to a specific country, it doesn't end up in the wrong destination. That's what I meant by chip security, to avoid transshipment, right? Because we want to maintain our trust. Now you are talking about a IP. If anybody can hack, I think these people are going to try that later. I think if you can hack into a chip to get information out of it, right? So all chip producers we have our own hackers, okay, to say try to break this, and it goes through some rigorous testing and everything. Make sure there is no backdoor for people to access. Now, having said that, there are always someone somewhere in some corner of the world who manages to figure out a way. But we all put in a lot of, there are huge departments that are just, their job is to make sure that it's not hackable, right? Also, if you're a hacker, I actually hack those who, we have a department that hires people who can hack and everything. They get paid way more than chip designers. And
All right, thank you. I saw there's a question, the hand from there. Right? Is there any question from? Oh, there. Oh, yeah.
Hi, good day. I think the question is more towards all of the panels. My name is Tony. I also just entered Intel and proud to work at Intel as well. So, question to all the panels, right? So, one of the strategy that help that Malaysia they have is talents. I'd like to address this. If I ask around, maybe only me or all my classmates, after we graduate, most likely want to go for the ×3 salary Singapore, which is one of our main competitors for talents as well. So how do government or how do we convince ourselves to stay in Malaysia instead of go Singapore and then we get a 10,000 to 15,000 salary of Malaysia ringgit instead?
This goes into government policies which we have no control of, right? But a funny thing happened in Intel recently where we are trying to encourage people, advising everyone to come and contribute to the economy, work in Malaysia, don't go to Singapore or anything else. But I saw my own colleague encouraging his son to go to Singapore to work. So it doesn't make sense, So I think you all should be left to make your own decisions, right? Right? Your family requirements, constraints, financial means and all that. Whatever makes sense, the practical answers, whatever makes sense for you, just go and do it. If that money that you get from Singapore is going to make a huge difference to your family and all that, I would say why not until the currency improves or you find something that is more attractive over here. People will be unhappy that I'm saying this, but the fact that I saw my own colleagues, despite telling publicly the world that you should come and work in Malaysia, but encouraging their kids to go and apply, it seems very odd. It doesn't sound right. So I have no control over the currency exchange, right? So, but I don't think I think even if you can get up to 2.5 or 2.8, the tide will change and people will continue working here. I would never consider working in Singapore because I love driving. I cannot imagine taking the MRT and or to work and all that, right? Okay, and you'll have to probably rent one room. You can only. Now I'm going to say why they shouldn't go. Most of my friends who are there, front kids are there. Of course, the accommodation and everything is ridiculously expensive, but you're willing to suck it up for a few years and all that. Suppose you could do it, right?
Yeah, I think this is not just a Malaysia problem, it's a global problem. So it's not just you thinking about Singapore. Other countries, they are also thinking about coming here. Europeans may be thinking about Southeast Asia because this is the hot market right now. right? Whether it's Malaysia or Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, or whichever country is in this region. So it's a global problem. It's not just isolated to Malaysia only. Malaysia is because we keep highlighting the exchange rate with Singapore. But like Subar said, you know, go out, explore. It's what you want. Some people just don't want to leave their own comfort zone, right? They just want to live in Malaysia. But yeah, it's an individual choice, and I don't think it's a policy problem. It is a policy headache, but it's not something that policy could just address in one go.
All right, thank you. I think we still have time for one last question. So any question from the floor?
Hi, good morning to everyone. I'm Nirvesh, and I'm a third-year mechatronic engineering student from University Malaysia Perlis, and I'm a very proud Penangai. Yeah, so my question is for you, Mr. Subagaran, being a leader from Intel. So talking about AI, how far has it influenced or play a role in the success story of Intel? And not talking about the younger generation, but the older generation, how are they actually adapting to AI? Because there's few of them that I know who actually like to do things the convention way. They like sticking to the old way of doing things. And a little context into lately, we have seen emerging robots, or I will say humanoids, such as Optimus from Tesla, and then we have Gamma from X1, and also Atlas from Boston Scientific, talking about humanoid robot here. So are there any possibilities, or Intel is actually looking into replacing operator or manufacturing specialists with this humanoid robot in future? Is there a plan? And from the policy perspective, is this a concern that in the future we might face a problem where people might lose more jobs? We're already having that problem now since the emerge of AI. So my question is, does Intel have a plan towards that future? And from a policy perspective, is that a concern? Thank you.
Okay. A lot of questions inside there. Right. I think first of all, you were saying, is the older generation willing to adapt AI? By older, you're referring to us, I guess, right? So I think I use Perplexity a lot. A lot of my friends use Perplexity. ChatGPT, I have a bit of concern because ChatGPT, I think it tries too hard to be a friend. You know, every question that you ask, oh, brilliant question. Oh, then you tend to forget the actual question and you feel so proud about yourself, right? So I prefer using Perplexity. Anyway, I think it's not a generational thing. I'm sure the younger generation uses it more in answering questions and all that. My just advice is keep it symbiotic and not parasitic. Meaning that your back and forth with the chat GPT or whatever is just get answers, you know, and you're not doing the right prompting, right? And I'll be honest with you, when I go for panels, I go to chat GPT and I say, in fact, you can even say, so-and-so is coming for this panel, what do you think they will say? And it even say that based on their previous presentation, these are the likely things that they mentioned. So all of us use it. I don't think it's a generational thing, but I'm sure you all use it more. Now, on whether Intel is using AI, is that what is your question? Or humanoid. So Intel will never go to work on an N. Oh no, your question was whether we will replace our operators with humanoid. So Malaysia, there's a unique challenge. The biggest challenge in adopting automation in any Malaysian company is the labor cost is low for the operators, that they start questioning, why do I even want to do it? If I were to automate this, is it going to take away my cost competitiveness? And somebody will say, I can have this automated factory sitting right in a city in America, right? But that is not the reason we are not doing it. I'm just saying that for most companies, the cost, the ROI seems to be not incentivizing them enough to move. Our factory floors are heavily automated. We are using so much AI in our manufacturing floor before even people knew there was the word called AI. The yield engineering, and when we look for cosmetic defects or something, there is visual automated AI checks that look at it. our manufacturing flows are such that it can look at all of your fab parameters and all that and try to figure out what would be the best possible wafer to pick. So there's heavy influence of AI in all the flows. But to build a full humanoid to replace the work in the operators and all that, I'm not sure if you will go that far, because I see those kind of things usually happen more in the heavy industries, the car manufacturers and all that, so you'll have a humanoid. So you had a lot of embedded questions, and did I answer? Do you wanna-
Yeah. So I think your last question is whether humanoids, robots, AI will replace jobs, right? Did I get it right? Yeah, I think the sentence is not finished. It will replace, but it also will create new jobs. So the question for policymakers is more about then how do you get people to be able to do the new jobs? So that's the question that government are asking themselves, not just in Malaysia, everywhere in the world. It's the same phenomenon, it's the same problem. Then it depends on the government what kind of initiative that we have. That's why you have this upskilling, reskilling program, making sure that you can pick up, with the latest technology. And I mentioned initially in the first question for myself is that, what do you think is going to happen the next 10 years? That's how you prep yourself, because you can't be doing something that is current. It's going to be replaced very fast. So I guess for policymakers, one of the big challenges is not just about how to upskill and reskill, but the speed of doing that, because technology changes extremely fast, and you're in that sector, you know it much better than me, how fast things could change. But how then policymakers, as usual, very slow because of the bureaucracy, can keep up with that pace. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
It's a wonderful time to be engineer.
I can give you some example story. Past 2 months that I meet one. So one company, he want to use AI visions to do the inspection for lipstick. So the angle of the light and everything. So after evaluating the whole thing, you say, wow, I think his human eye is better. Because it's too much to have the hand automation for Kuka to take and then check and then come back again. But no doubt it will improve on the vision inspection. However, to do the AI model training, that will cost even a lot more money to do that. So you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to think from how much that you're going to build this system, plus your AI model for the visions, versus that you are able to, if you still can use the eye to do that. Of course, in some of the precision manufacturing example, when you do this vision inspection on PCB line trace, then may be possible because of the volume and also the cost and also the ability of human eye to do that, won't be able to do that. That's why I say not everything will be replaced by AI, but in certain industry, yes. I give you another example you want to hear. I meet one company, he say, why there's a company like last time you all see your entrepreneur, right? Use a robotic app to do a boba tea one. Anyone see that before? But most of them closed down. Why? Because that arm costs 1 million. How much bubble tea that you need to make to even the cost? So then this guy actually created even much more innovative way. In order to save the cost, instead of using the robotic arm, what does he do? So make a ball. Everything dump inside, everything can fly, he will do that. That cost is low, and then you can make it consistent, and then it doesn't require AI to do that. So you get what I mean? So not every industry or even all the industry may require AI, but in a certain area that you think it makes sense to solve the problem.
Good question.
Yeah. So look at the time now. So sure, come.
I'm waiting for somebody to ask where to have lunch.
Hello. I'm Wei. I'm also from UTP, and we talk about the use of AI in manufacturing. But I'm curious about what are the roles of AI in chip design, or are there any possibilities for it to replace human chip designer?
No. I don't think AI can completely replace human in chip design. You all would have heard the word vibe coding recently, right? Vibe coding is, okay, I don't need engineers to do their Python coding or something. I put in this algorithm, it'll do it. There's so many startups coming and everything. Now it's having a backlash. Vibe coding isn't coding it correctly, or it is copying codes from some places where it is not supposed to. So I think it's still got a long way for it to get to a maturity level before we can say it can replace some of the work done by design engineers. You still need designers, but I think the percentage of how much you can get from AI in coding will keep increasing. Okay. Your question on how much AI is being used in our chip design, quite extensively, right? Companies, EDA companies like Synopsys, Cadence, and everything, they've already integrated so much AI into the. You use AI quite a bit in the when you're doing layout and everything to avoid congestion. So AI comes in and gives a very good proposal, but the final yes or no pass, you still need an experienced engineer to do it, right? So, but AI, yes, it is being quite heavily in chip design. And the thing is, just because it's using in chip design, we did not fire people, because we can always repurpose the existing engineers to do other work, right?
Can tell stories about?
No.
I hope that you don't ask ChatGPT, how are you today, how are you doing? You will give you a lot of hallucination answer. So if you experience that. So I think AI will be helping a lot of productivity work and so on. That's my personal opinion. But to do the real work, innovations work, that's why we call AI artificial one. So you are the true intelligent. Just like I tell you ABS, aku buat sendiri. So that is really important, because must understand AI is actually built on the algorithm that have been trained or learned from somebody, or from you, from anyone. If you don't teach him, do you think that he will give you the answer? He will not. That is a true intelligence inside you. So that is what make you a different compared to the AI. So I always believe that, we teach our kids start from the beginning, right? Like, oh, you are learning apple, pineapple, pen, and pencil, right? So you learn. If you don't teach it, this is a pencil, he will give you a different answer. So similar things, that concept of why AI. Yes, it will help you to do the productivity work, routine work, and so on. But true innovation will steal from you. You are true intelligent, not AI.
All right, yeah.
Discouraged, but you can use AI, but in the right way.
Yep, definitely. So once again, thank you to all our panelists for the thoughtful and grounded perspectives. I believe all of you must get something a lot from this session. So with that, I think we will conclude our session today. So please give a round of applause to our panelists today. All right, thank you.